Well, thank you for being here. I'm Steve. I'm from Stoked, and we're a nonprofit organization in New York and Los Angeles. This is not my first time in Copenhagen. I came here when I was I'd say 16 years ago, and I came here because the year before I had met a friend in Italy, and she was like, just come here, it's great. And so I have very, very fond memories of Copenhagen. Very quick story is that I stayed over by, is it Christensen, right? The area on the other, Christensen, yeah, stayed over there. And so I mean, this is a very beautiful city, and I would go to the Carlsberg brewery for free beer, and I was a young, just finished college, and I didn't have money to go to internet cafes back then, so I would sneak into the University of Copenhagen and use their computer there to email all my friends and go on instant message, and it was just, I have very, very fond memories of being here, because when I left here, I felt a good sense of focus in my life, and so it's interesting to be back here 16 years later. Back then, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I figured it out somehow, and I'm here telling about it. So, so just a show of hands, who's here from a university? Okay, who's here from like a NGO, sports? You work with kids, okay? Okay. Who's here from like a municipality or a city government? Okay. And whoever didn't raise their hand, where are you guys from? Yeah.
I'm a journalism teacher.
You're a journalism teacher. Okay, great. Cool. So I hope I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my work and how we engage young people in New York and Los Angeles, and just kind of the theory behind it. So this is me. I'm on top of a mountain. That's my happiest place in the world, aside from being with my children. But I was on top of a mountain, and I'm going to tell you my favorite quote. 9 to 5 is how you survive. How you survive. 9 to 5 is how you survive. I ain't trying to survive. I'm trying to live it to the limit and love it alive. And it's my favorite quote, and I feel like anytime you have the chance to put Jay-Z in a presentation, you should say this. So there you go. But a lot of this is kind of informed my work, the sort of mindset of being able to not think in terms of 9 to 5. In American culture, it sort of signifies having a regular job, a regular life. For me, it was more about being able to live beyond that. It was beyond beyond traditional means, and so I'm really glad that I sort of discovered that, because it kind of signifies the work that I do and the work that I do with young people. I was raised from a family of immigrants. They came from Haiti, and growing up, sort of lower middle class. My family had struggled at times. I had a lot of great safety nets. I had coaches, and I had priests, and I had family members and people that kept me in line. And so that if there was any moment in which I was straying off my path, there were people to kind of nudge me in the right direction. And around growing up, I became very passionate about skateboarding, and I love skateboarding so much that it really gave me a sense of freedom and discovery and self-expression that I sort of took into my life, into my career. The interesting thing about that was that when I finished school, and I got like a regular job, I was doing marketing. It wasn't until I became successful at my career that I started to sort of seek other things, and I found this book, and it was called No More Prisons, and it talked about it talked about community empowerment, it talked about self-education, it talked about this thing called mentoring. And you guys know what mentoring is, right? And so mentoring to me was the best app in the world. It was better than any piece of technology. It was just merely a relationship between two people. And so what I did was I called the most successful person that I knew in my life, and it was my friend Jeff, and he owned a few restaurants in New York City, and I said, I want you to be my mentor. And he said, what is that? I said, I just want to have dinner with you once a month, and I want to talk about life. And he said, great. And then I, went to the internet and I Googled New York City mentoring, and I called this organization. I started mentoring children in foster care. And I realized that there's a generation of young people, and I would pretty much say globally, confidently, that are growing up without positive role models. These are young people that maybe they may have parents at home, but their parents are working too much. And so they seek mentorship in other ways, and some of it are healthy, some of it are unhealthy. And then there are kids that don't have any role models at home. There's nobody when they wake up in the morning, there's nobody to give them breakfast. When they wake up in the morning, they don't see a parent get up, get dressed, go to work, right? They're missing this framework of just what it takes to be a happy, normal, successful person in life. So I started working with these young people, and at the same time, as I was becoming more and more passionate about that, I started to lose interest in my marketing career. And I sort of made the decision that I only want to work in businesses and in projects that sort of gave back to this world. So I started to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life, and one of those things was I just wanted to snowboard as much as possible. I figured I had another mentor in my life, and she told me that do what feels good. And so snowboarding made me feel really good. And I was snowboarding in Whistler, British Columbia, and it was my last run of my last day. And I sat there and I stood looking at the beautiful mountains, and I said, I wish my mentee was here. And my mentee was a kid in foster care, and he lived in over 100 different homes. He barely knew his mother, barely knew his father. And I just wanted him to see that there was something other outside of his normal surroundings. And I wanted to surround him with mentors and skills and beautiful environments like this, because I know that sometimes with young people, and for us too, it's, it could be that one idea, that one person that made a big difference in your life. And so that's the sort of organization that I wanted to build. And so when you look at, sports and how people engage with young people, and when I reference the Jay-Z quote again, the sort of 9 to 5, the normal way of working with young people, these are sort of the traditional means, whether it's through traditional sports like skateboarding, with tennis or soccer or basketball, or even in the top right corner is a tutoring program, like a regular mentoring program. And so for me, when I thought about my relationship with my mentee, the kids that I was working with, there was only so much that I can get through to them. And I'm sure for people that work with young people, that some of the things that you do work with a small percentage of those kids, but then you see those other kids, you're like, what could I possibly do to get through to this young person? And so for me, it was, I was not happy with the normal way in which the tools that were out there to work with young people. And so I sort of looked at, the sports that I did growing up. I was a skateboarder, and I love the freedom, the self-expression. I love being able to look at a sidewalk, and it was never the same. Even after I started surfing, a wave was never the same. This is more about street sports, but street sports and skateboarding is truly an opportunity for you to be the best that you could possibly be with the environment that you have around you. And so like a board is not just a skateboard, it's an opportunity for a young person to be their best. And so I was just telling Marvin earlier that, you know, my whole idea around snowboarding and eventually skateboarding was, you fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you keep getting back up. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you see a young person skateboarding and they attempt a trick 100 times and they fail 99 times, but they land that one time and they go again for another 99 times and they keep failing, there's something that's happening in that young person that's fundamentally changing them, that's making them stronger. And for me, and the research that I found, it's called resilience. It's your ability to bounce back from obstacles. And that's a key ingredient that we all need in life. We need to, because we're not going to get the relationship, we may not get the job, we may not get, you know, whatever, but it's how you bounce back from that. And that's a fundamental youth development sort of skill that young people need. And so for, you know, skateboarding, it's because there's no competition, it's not a team, there's no winning or losing. Like if we're skateboarding together, depending on how I'm playing that day, you can be better. You can be teaching me something, right? If you know, we're out, and I remember a couple years ago, I was skateboarding with friends. I picked up 3 tricks in a day, and I was like in my 30s. I was still learning, and there's always a sense of progression, and you can always push yourself. And so that's what really excites me about being able to work with young people in this new way. It's like there's no winning or losing. You bring your own style to skateboarding. You bring your own sense of community. You know, how you dress, what music you listen to, and all of these things sort of speak to young people. So I put up snowboarding up there because they're all. And I put up surfing, so surfing is all about, you know, the sense of adventure. You know this movie, Endless Summer, right? So it's like a bunch of guys, you know, they wanted to always surf all throughout the year. That's cool, that's an adventure, right? And young people too, you can teach that sense of adventure. You can teach that sort of do-it-yourself mentality, that you can take what you have and sort of do something with it. And so, you know, a couple years ago, I started thinking about, like, you know, the sports that we do in the bigger context. Like, okay, you're gonna teach a kid how to skateboard or do some sort of street sport, but what's the point? Like, why are we doing this, aside from just, you know, being healthy, right? And I started to really play around with the idea of just this opportunity gap. And it's a big thing in the United States, and it's also linked to like income inequality. And I think most of the times that when we think about working with young people, you know, it always comes down to like an opportunity to be your best, and an opportunity to learn skills so that it applies to your education. You know, develop new experiences. You have new stories to tell, relationships, and in some ways, you can get a lot of advantages that come from opportunity. And so for me, you know, years ago I used to say, I wish people would understand the impact that skateboarding would have on young people. I was like, but you know, people understand like a disease like cancer. People understand hunger. People understand, you know, building wells in Africa, right? And so like for me, it was like, what does something like skateboarding mean? And it's like, it's an opportunity. And there are, the way I define opportunity is, and the gap is, it's the difference in life trajectory between a person of means and a person without means, right? It's that gap in between. And so I think something like skateboarding can do that. And so for us, how we sort of quantify it, and these are sort of related to US stats, so like how I quantify opportunity gap is, the United States has the second highest child poverty rate in the world, right? And for me, you'd think that's pretty low, right? Like for the United States, and that's pretty bad. The other thing is, everything that happens outside of the classroom, by age 12, a low-income, middle-class young person in the United States has 6,000 more hours in terms of after-school programs, sports, trips to the museum, family vacations. So 6,000 hours of difference. And then, I think this is more of a global phenomenon, is that there's an unemployment gap for young people. So there's a lack of opportunities and a lack of skills for young people to gain meaningful employment. And so I think, when you think about the work that you do, it's like you want to impart the skills and relationships and the advantages for young people, so they could just be healthy, but they can also, be successful in life, correct? So, so this is our sort of theory of change. Is that so on one side you have kids without opportunity, on the left side is kids without opportunity, on the other side are kids with opportunity, and it's that gap in between. And so the problem are relationships, skills, and participation. Kids don't ever get the chance to participate in things, and I think something like street sports enable young people to participate, because the more they participate, we found that there's an increase in school attendance. They're more engaged in school. They're more able to take advantage of opportunities and ask questions and just speak up, be more proactive in life. And we do that through sports and through a myriad of different ways in our after-school program. So we take the culture and lifestyle of snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, and we have after-school programs which include photography and design and building skateboards by hand and those sorts of things. And all of this is sort of backed by research, but in order to sort of close the opportunity gap, you need to increase human capital, social capital, and enrichment, or cultural capital. So what we do is that we provide mentors, we provide youth development in terms of some of these skills, we provide education enrichment, and career exposure. And so some of our results, we've worked with 3,500 students. Since we've started, we have a 100% high school graduation rate, and we provide an additional 41% of enrichment and programming and hours to young people every year. And so, just to backtrack on what Stoked is, and so Stoked is a nonprofit, and so we're a charity, and our mission is to promote personal development, academic achievement, and healthy living through action sports culture. We operate from a sort of sense of values, and so we believe that action sports can truly change a young person's life in terms of being able to make them feel more self-expressive, more confident, more resilient, give them a sense of purpose and community. And I feel like if you work with young people, those are the sort of key ingredients that you strive to bring in to the programs. Our values, in which everyone from young people to our board members to mentors, they all know Stoked. And Stoked, in just normal action sports speak, means that you're pumped up, you're motivated, you're excited. But for us, these are success, teamwork, openness, kudos, energy, and determination. And so, one of the things that we do is that we have programs and we have activities that sort of build upon all of these things. And so you see the person on the left, that's a young person, the person to the right is a mentor, and we have programs in which There's life skills that are being taught, and every sport has a different set of life skills. So skateboarding teaches communication skills, networking skills, positive social habits, and community service. Surfing teaches values like respect, trust, understanding of themselves and their community. Snowboarding teaches how to set goals, how to think and dream big for their future. So like on the way up to the mountain, we sit on a bus, we literally write out our goals. They have a mentor next to them, and the mentor is writing their goals down too. And then we come together, we share our goals, and we keep each other accountable. It's kind of like a little utopia. It's kind of fun. It's like being able to share your goals, dreams, and aspirations with people that can actually help you make that happen. And so, why action sports? It's to get back to it, it's like self-expression, it's creativity. I mean, when you think about what young people are into, when they listen to, when I don't know if kids are like this or students like this in Copenhagen, but they love social media, they love Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram because it gives them that sense of being connected, right? They can self-express, like even the use of filters, right, on Instagram, it makes you feel like you're being creative. And so these are the same things that happen in sports like skateboarding. Like kids feel connected to a larger community. They feel like that they can, have a trick or land a trick, and they do it with their own sense of style, and they walk out feeling so much more confident. They also become more disciplined and sort of develop all of these intangible skills, but that are tangible, like being able to walk into a room full of people that they don't know and feel like they fit in. And so oftentimes young people miss out on opportunities because they feel like they don't fit in. And sports like skateboarding give kids the opportunity to feel like they're part of something. And so each of our sports are seasonal, and we look to engage with kids for multiple years. So we work with kids for all 4 years of high school. And next year we're going to be adding middle school, so we'll be working with students for 7 years. And the way we look at it, it's like a lifestyle. You're a part of Stoked for many years, and you use Stoked as your jumping off point. Kids put Stoked on their CV. They use the work that they do and their experience and their relationships to get references for college. They put it on their college applications. And we build a portfolio for them to help them differentiate themselves from the kids that go through the traditional path. We also have a program called Stoked to Serve, in which teams of students clean up parks and then skateboard, and skateboard after, or they paint, or they do gardening projects. We've done gardening projects at shelters. We've made food for homeless people and gave them food. And so they put that experience on their CV, so that when they sit down and they have an interview, they say, hey, I have experience giving back, right? And so those are the types of things that we do. We work with a lot of high schools, low-income schools. We work with kids from underserved communities, kids who can benefit from having a strong role model. And we also work with different municipalities and parks. So we bring our programs to those various places. And so our mentors really make who we are. Because I was a mentor, because in my organization, my previous organization, I used to recruit mentors. We spent a lot of time recruiting, screening, training our mentors. The thing about where we get our mentors from is that if you have a passion for snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, and you're an adult and you have a job, and you come across an organization in which sort of feeds into your passion of the thing that you love to do when you're a teenager, it's fairly easy to plug into Stoked. And so a lot of our mentors are professionals. We have lawyers, we have nurses, we have attorneys, we have creative directors, photographers. So anybody, entrepreneurs, startup people, and we have a lot of various people that truly, they care about the sports and the lifestyle, and it made them who they are. And so that's who those are our mentors. A lot of them are over 25, they all have college degrees, and they stick with us for multiple years. Our mentors, we use them in a very flexible way. So we train them on becoming, mentors, so they can be snowboard, skateboard, surf mentors. We have mentors that go into schools after school and talk to students about their career. So we feel that mentoring doesn't have to be one-on-one. Because life doesn't really work like that, right? We all know multiple people, and it's how we operate within a big community of people. So for me, a good sort of metric is if I'm a friend of a student on Facebook, right, and I could look at how many mutual connections. There's a student in my program she's been in my program known her for about 8 years, but she was in Stoked for about 7 years. We have something like 80 common connections, and they're not all kids. More than half of them are adults. So she knows this young person, and it's not uncommon for a young person in Stoked to know 20, 30 really successful adults, right? How many, even for me, when I was 15, 16, I probably knew a handful of adults, right? But to imagine the confidence as a young person to know that, hey, I know this executive at MTV, or oh, I know this executive at Nike, right? And it's that confidence, because these are the same people that they know these students for multiple years. They've seen them grow. They're the same ones that are writing recommendations for them to get their internships in college, right? So I guess the point is that it's mentorship is more about a community and a lifestyle than just being a part of a program for 6, 8, 10 weeks or a year. So one of the sort of little things that we do to sort of build up in our community is that we have this sort of language and lingo, and so we encourage our mentors to be positive, enthusiastic, and truly like role models. I like to tell adults that the issues that we have as an adults, right, whatever issues that we have, kids don't need to know any of those things. So be your best self all the time. And one of those ways is how we speak. So we don't say hopefully, maybe, try, if, can't, won't. We just don't say those things at all. And so, because part of those things is that even from a language perspective, with young people, you need to enable and not put barriers in our way, right? And so, especially with skateboarding, right? We don't say, why don't you try that trick? We just say, do it. So you either fail or you don't, but either way, you're going to do it. And it's the same thing with life. It's don't try to pass your classes, just pass it. So work hard and pass it. And so those are the little things that we do in order to build our community. And aside from that, we also have other things that I'll tell you about. So I wanted to play you a video. And how are we on time? Okay, so I'll be finished really fast. So this is a video. So there's a snack company called Kind, and they gave us a grant. So they made this video to profile one of our students and one of the mentors in the program. So you get to see what it's like. I'm Steve Larosiliere, and I'm the president and founder of Stoked. Stoked's mission is to promote personal development, academic achievement, and healthy living to underserved youth by using action sports culture. When I started Stoked, I wanted to take the young person that I was mentoring snowboarding. I wanted to show him that there was a world outside of his group home that he lived in. And I realized that there was probably a lot more kids that wanted to do the same thing. In addition to skateboarding, they do surfing and they do snowboarding. All of our kids love Kind, so we've been working with Kind for a while. And then this past year, we got a grant that we're able to sort of use to continue our work to serve more kids.
My name is Dustin. I'm 28. I'm a skate mentor. The main value that I try to impart on the kids is determination. Just, when you fall down off your skateboard or when you're, trying to catch a wave and you fall down, you just get back up.
I'm Charles Joseph and I'm 16 years old. And I come to the skate mentors. I help kids and they teach me as well.
Come on now, I know this might sound crazy. Come on now.
Charles is one of my favorite students because he does not give up.
The first half of the year, we had like pieces of wood and we just made new skateboards out of it. We actually ourselves painted the design on the boards. We had to go out to different skate shops and just like present our brand to the skate shops, have them buy our boards.
When they're done building a skateboard, they leave with a sense of completion. And you can get a lot of confidence from that. Because if you can start and finish just building a skateboard, you can start and finish school.
I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to take the bus and the train to go to school. But I just tell myself, hey, at the end of the day, just to go to Stoked and just like chill with everyone. I'm like, all right, just wake up.
I feel like the story of low-income, underserved kids could end up in some really bad situations, but I'm looking to shift that. In order to change your life trajectory, it takes little things.
In a kind way, like I try to push him to be the best that he can be.
Stoked has changed my attitude towards life in a way that from middle school, I was like in a state where I just choose which personality to go with, and Stoked taught me that it's okay to just be the nice person.
Don't say that.
So some of the things that we do, we do some major events. We have fundraisers and galas, and we also do like skate jams and park jams, and that's kind of how we help fund it. Some of our major supporters include Paul Rodriguez, is a pro skateboarder. We have some actresses and models that support us. These are some of our supporters, which you may have noticed a couple. These are some of our in-kind. We rely on a lot of in-kind support for our snow, skate, surf equipment, healthy snacks. We always make sure that kids have healthy snacks. A lot of our students, because they are low income, a lot of them don't have access to healthy food, healthy lifestyle, so they get that from us. These are some of the press we do. We've been very lucky to get a lot of support from various press outlets, always looking to create news stories and actually get the narrative out there. So even organizations like Skateistan, which is a skateboard program in Afghanistan, and there's an organization called Waves for Development. So I'm really happy that more organizations like this exist, because it actually helps spread the word that, like, hey, you can work with young people, through these types of activities and actually gain measurable impact and results. And so thank you. That's my email. I'm on Twitter, and I look forward to any questions, comments. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Steve. I think I would like to, with the limited time we have remaining, I would like to open the floor to questions. And if you don't have questions, maybe I have some, but please use the microphone so we can hear.
Hello. I'm really curious how you train your mentors, like really low practical.
Yeah, so so when mentors apply, after they apply, we do a background check on them, and then they get invited to a training. So it's like a 3-hour training. That's what they do. And so if you want, I can share the outline with you, but share the outline period. But it's basically we go over the mission, vision, values of the program. We talk about the population of kids. We talk about we go through scenarios, like how to communicate. So we expand upon like the hopefully, maybe, try, that sort of lingo. And then we follow up with like, every few months there's like an additional training. I'm actually looking to change that a bit. This upcoming year is that we're going to be having more like get-togethers and sort of do professional development of our mentors. What I didn't mention is that we also they're called coaches. So our coaches are like part-time staff who are skateboarders, snowboarders, surfers, who are college educated, and so this is a part-time job for them. And so we do a lot of training with them. So we go over classroom management, we go over social emotional learning, we go over project-based learning. We kind of train them to be like mini teachers. So yeah.
Hi, thank you. It was really, really interesting to hear about your passion in this. I have 2 questions. One, is it a special point that it's an action sport? Could you do this with football or tennis or whatever sport? And the second one is, do you have any statistics on the dropout rate? Because I think it must take quite a lot to start from scratch, building your own goal, etc., etc. And what do you do with the dropouts?
Okay. So the first question was, can we do this with any sport? Yes, you can build a lifestyle and a culture and community around any sport. It's truly what happens not just on the field, but like after the program, like what kind of follow-up, what kind of supplemental programs. So for us, it's like, so yes, we do snowboarding, skateboarding, and surfing, but we also have other programs, so kids can build skateboards, they can do photography, but it's all kind of linked to those sports. And even, we have talks from different people. So if you were to do tennis, right, you could do, you could do tennis, and you can invite professional tennis players to come and talk. You can get coaches from universities and students from universities to come and interact and mentor with kids. So I think, for us, it's truly about having this action sport, right, and building upon that, building upon the lifestyle and culture of that. But, to be fair, there's lifestyle and culture behind any sport, right? And it's like how you bring that to life. And so in the beginning, our retention rate was really low, and it was because we didn't have the systems in place in order to keep the kids in check, right? And the other thing too is that skateboarding, when we first started, so we're going on 10 years, skateboarding wasn't cool. And you have these kids from these tough backgrounds and these tough neighborhoods. For them to walk down the street with a skateboard, it didn't look cool, right? We also demand a lot of our students. So when they come snowboarding, they have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and show up. And so like the kids, and where their families didn't necessarily support and encourage them to get up, go, like they would end up dropping out because we set the bar really high. And so what we did in order to fix that was that we actually just added more training for mentors, and then it became more than just me. Like we had to have program staff in place to check in on the kids to make sure that not only are they checking in on them for our program, but are they checking in on them for school. And I think it truly, you know the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. So like, it truly takes a village to raise a young person. So we are just a piece. We're an additional advocacy piece in a young person's life. So there's school, there's home, maybe there's another program that they're part of, and then there's Stoked, right? And so we're able to see things in young people that their teachers or their counselors never see. And so what we've started to do is build systems, and we're actually developing like a web platform that is able to capture those things so that we can share them with other people. So that like, if their math teacher, if they're having problems with math, and the teacher knows that they were just recently successful in our skateboarding program over the weekend, or they're progressively doing really well, they can use that knowledge to help inform how the student learns, you know?
Thanks. Do you do anything to engage the rest of the family, like the parents, for those kids?
We communicate, so because we partner with schools, what we do is we onboard our parents, we let them know what's going on and what the expectation is. We rely on our partnership with the school. And so whoever has the strongest relationship with the student, that's who we partner with. We're not designed to like have like a full-on relationship with the families, but our most successful students have the most involved parent, even if it's like a one-parent household. Yeah.
If I could give a comment to the question about the target group and would the values that you heard be applicable to other sports, I think you recognize the values that Steve had on the screen, and they are indeed applicable. What sets Steve's organization apart is their purpose. The Snowboard Federation is not reaching out to the low socioeconomic class with intention. It's not their purpose. Their purpose is sport-based. His purpose is person-based, and there's a key distinction, I think, and that's how he can separate what he's doing apart from other entities that are working in the sports space and also other sports.
Just an idea that if you're looking to implement something like this, is I would focus on a population of young people that isn't currently being served, so whether
Can you say why?
Because it's a good test group. You know, it's a good because oftentimes the ones that aren't being served, there's definitely a correlation between that and the fact that what is offered being out there isn't truly engaging them. It's not attracting them. And so, you know, for me, I keep thinking like, oh, I want to do like a juvenile, you know, it's like a all girls snowboard program, or juvenile kids with juvenile involved in the court system surfing program. Like, you know, like the more niche that you can get with your program, I feel like you can see a more measurable result, and then you can actually build a more of an inclusive community. And so I told Marvin earlier, it's a very interesting thing, is that I've been very curious as the role of social capital in terms of being able to bridge opportunity. And social capital, an indicator of social capital is trust, right? So if you can build a very safe community in which everybody feels safe, then you can build upon that trust. That's the foundation for everything on top of that. And so I feel like the more niche that you can get in terms of the types of students, whether it's like middle school or whether it's, you know, immigrant youth or just whatever, that if you can build a sense of community and trust within that, then you can sort of layer anything on top. You can add whatever sport, activity, anything on top of that.
Are there other questions? Yes.
It all seems very like big and professional. So how how did it all start? Was it like, what was the first thing you did?
Do we still have time? How much?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so I'll tell you the down and dirty in 3 minutes. So what I did was I wrote everything down on one sheet of paper, and it was what, why, who, and when, right? And what I did was I went through all of my contacts and I wrote down every person that I knew, and I started like one by one, just kind of calling them and telling them the idea. And then the other is I had reached out to anytime somebody said, what do you do? I said, I'm starting a snowboard mentoring program. I didn't tell them what I was doing, what I did before. I told them what I was going to do. And I received a lot of introductions from there. I had a mentor, this man he had started a number of organizations and NGOs, and he was a consultant. I would speak to him once a week for about 6 months, and he'd say, okay, this is what you do this week. Do this, 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 and this, and then call me next week. And that's what I did. And so one of the first things that I did was I'd call other organizations. And so I think a lot of people, when they do projects, they don't collaborate. And so reaching out to people, you can actually, by reaching out, solve somebody else's problem. And so I reached out to 5 organizations, 4 of them said no, 1 of them said yes, and that allowed me to use their nonprofit status so that I didn't have to go out and form my own organization. I became a partner of them. I served their kids, and because I worked at a mentoring program before, I knew how to put together a mentoring program. I had probably raised about $1,000 from my friends by basically begging them, and I would be on my skateboard and I'd be on my skateboard on the phone and I'd say, hey, it's Steve, how you doing, blah, 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 blah. I'm starting this snowboard mentoring program. Can you donate $50? And then I'd be quiet, and then they'd say, yes. Great. And so I did that a bunch of times. I got somebody else who had means. I got another mentor to say, hey, can you go out and get some money from your friends and tell them about this? And then I threw a party, and I got the mentors, I got the kids, and then I actually contacted another snowboard program that was doing something similar, and they lent me all of their equipment because it wasn't being used. And then I put everything together. I only had about maybe 2 weeks of money for the program. I put together a fundraiser, and then I raised the rest of the money to do the pilot project. And so, is that 3 minutes?
It is.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, thanks. I'm available to talk if anybody has any questions afterwards. Thank you.
If I could leave you with a point, I think that I can try to sum up what you've heard today, and that is the rule of initiative. There are, regardless of if you're working within a sports organization or for the commune or for a smaller NGO, when you look at the landscape, there is opportunity for new initiatives. And if you take initiative and reach out, as Steve pointed out, to those who are not yet being reached, then you have a good chance of success, particularly if you are collaborating with others. I think this presentation is available to you. The organizers have probably set that up online or otherwise. I would encourage you to look at the end of his presentation on his partners and notice something that's missing, and I think that's perhaps cultural, but maybe it can be inspirational. Not so much from the public sector, a lot from the private sector. I think that's also one of the reasons it was pointed out, identify a space that no one else is serving. You have less competition, and it makes you more attractive as a property where you're creating. You think of it as a property that you can then offer to your potential corporate partners. Thank you for today, and enjoy the rest of your day.